Hey, Pastor Jason here. Just wanted to thank you again for being a volunteer and just run over something very important to our church, and that is something called communion. Communion is one of those things where, man, we hear it talked about and we're often confused, like, what is going on? This is this big name, and it almost sounds like they're doing some things like drinking blood. Like, we've heard people describe it in some of the worst ways possible. So I want to just simplify it and let you understand what communion actually means. Communion is simply a part where churches gather together, our church gathers together, and we celebrate and we think back about what Christ did for us. So as a church, we gather together, we do some worship, and then we talk for just a few minutes about what it was for Christ to suffer on the cross for us, to pay the ultimate price for us, to bleed and to die, so that we did not have to go to hell for our sins. He paid the price. He paid the punishment for our sins. What's interesting is in the Bible, in Genesis, Satan tells Adam and Eve to take and eat. Jesus, on the Last Supper, which is what we celebrate for communion, says to his disciples, take and eat. And someday, for all those who believe in Jesus, the Father is going to say, come and dine. What does that all mean? That means that Satan attempted to disrupt and to pervert and to destroy something that God intended to be beautiful. When God at the Last Supper, when Jesus at the Last Supper said, take and eat, and he used those words that Satan had used for evil, and he turned those words into good, he gave us a whole new approach to life. So that's what we do at communion, is we take just a moment and we think about how the fact that God turned evil and sin into good, and that someday when we go to heaven, the Father is going to say to us, come and dine. So communion is just an opportunity for us to eat and celebrate and think about what Christ has done and what God the Father will be doing in the future. And then at our church, we gather together when we're done celebrating communion, and we have dinner because we believe that Jesus and his disciples, they ate a meal. So we do that, and we celebrate and we talk and we just hang out for a little bit. It's a special moment for us. It's a moment that is very important, I believe, for all Christians. It's also important that we take it very seriously, and it's not a joking matter. It's not something that we sit around and laugh about, because when we take communion with open, clean, and pure hearts, we are living life the way that Jesus said to take and eat. But when we disrupt it and we pervert it and we turn it into something that it's not, we end up making it more into what Satan made it into for Eden. Salvation is a beautiful, powerful, and holy picture of what Christ did for us. So for us, it's a very important thing. Now, it is important, but what we celebrate is the why, and not really the how. So we do it in a couple different ways. So we're not locked into like, boy, you do communion this way. What we're locked into is that it's a very important piece of a Christian's life. We all, as a church, ought to gather together and talk about the Last Supper and about the price that Christ paid. And when he said, take and eat, the power in him changing the world from evil to good and changing our souls from evil to good, and then giving us a beautiful home in heaven where someday the Father will say, come and dine.